friends and fellow Buffy lovers, and welcome to our podcast, where we discuss each episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer in detail, focusing on digging deep into the themes, metaphors, and foreshadowing. I'm Leah.
I'm Sarah.
I'm Tabby.
And this is Becoming Buffy.
Hi, guys. We are live. We should probably introduce ourselves. I mean, you see our names, but I'm Sarah. This is Tabby, and this is Leah. We are the Becoming Buffy hosts, and we're so excited to see you guys. See you guys. We're excited to talk with you guys today. Whether or not you call in or not, it's just going to be really fun. We get to talk about the best finale or one of the best finales in the Buffy series, and it's going to be a blast. So first of all, I want to say the day that this episode is going to air, we're going to post it onto our regular podcast on Thursday. And Thursday actually also happens to be National Women's Equality Day. So I just wanted to say, I thought that was very fitting.
We planned that for sure.
Yeah, no, I did not plan that. But I was writing it on my calendar and I saw it. I was like, National Women's Equality Day. This is perfect. So happy National Women's Equality Day to all you women out there.
And David.
David, I know, the one boy who's here. That's our brother. Okay, so let's talk about how this is going to work real fast. So basically, if you've listened to our podcast before, you know how it is with spoiler section. It's kind of a free-for-all in the sense that we have set things we're going to talk about, but we also end up just kind of talking about everything. So if there's anything in particular that you want to talk about as we're talking, feel free to just call in. There should be, I can't see it on my screen, but there should be a place somewhere near the chat area for you to be able to, it says ask a question, and also you can you write in your question as you call in. And feel free to call in more than once. We want to hear from you. We already know what we think with most of these things. And if you don't want to call in, that's totally fine. You can just listen or chat right along with us. Depending upon how many people join in and stuff, we might not be able to get to you right away, but hopefully just keep asking and we'll get to you eventually. Tabby's going to be reading the chat and she'll be responding to you. Leah's manning Instagram. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to DM us. Our Instagram is Becoming Buffy Podcast and our email is becomingbuffypodcast@gmail.com. Sorry, this is the annoying, boring part of the episode.
Shall we let everyone know that it's the spoiler section?
Oh, yes. This is the spoiler section. So there will be spoilers if you haven't seen all of Buffy and also the show Angel. Just be forewarned. You can totally stick around if you want to, but yeah, just letting you know now. All right. We're not necessarily going to go in order the episodes like we have in the past. We're going to go by character, simply because it's just easier that way because we're combining Becoming Part 1 and Becoming Part 2. So to start off, let's talk about Angel. All right. So one of the questions asked in this episode that we talked about in Becoming Part 1 is, who is Angel really? And one of the big things that we see, in Becoming Part 1, we see he's, the lazy, irresponsible Irishman who likes to party, wants to see the world, cruel, sadistic monster of a vampire, lonely, depressed, soulful vampire, and then Buffy's quiet, brooding boyfriend. So I'm sure most of you guys know, but David Boreanaz became aware in Becoming Part 1 while they were filming it that Joss Whedon was actually looking at making an Angel spinoff. He talks about how he was called into Joss's office wearing a really bad wig, and he was so nervous, not because of what Joss wanted to talk about with the spinoff. He was nervous because he was trying to practice this god-awful Irish accent, and he was super nervous about it because he knew it was bad. And so he thought Joss was going to fire him because of his accent. And so we all know that the Angel spinoff happens after this. And I think it's really interesting as we're watching all of this stuff happening with Angel in Becoming Part 1, there's a lot of Whistler asking I want to find out who you are because you could go either way here. And I was totally thinking about the powers to be and how there's the whole, we don't know if Angel's going to work for the good guys or the bad guys in all of Angel the series. And I wonder, I'm pretty sure at this point they didn't know the premise of Angel fully. And so I'm curious, If Whistler had been in Angel the series, do you guys think that he would have played a big part in helping Angel either stay on the good side or the bad side? Because I feel like Whistler is a huge enigma in this. And I feel like when it comes to him talking to Angel, you don't fully get the sense that Whistler like has skin in the game, if that makes sense. I don't know. I'm just curious what you guys think about like Angel and then Whistler particularly, because I feel like he was a missed opportunity.
I just think he was a prototype to Doyle. I think they were like, oh, this is an idea of what we want in like the show Angel. And then they just like never talked about him again. Every time he shows up in like the Becoming Part 1 and Part 2, I'm always like, oh yeah, Whistler was somebody that was in the show. And then he just is never talked about again. I feel like that happens with a couple different like characters. They'll come in, I'm like, oh yeah. And then they set up this whole like storyline that they could go with, and then they just are never talked about again.
Do you guys think, like, how would Angel the series be different if Whistler was there and not Doyle?
Emily said that he was there. His name was just changed to Doyle.
Well, see, I do know Whistler was supposed to be in there, but the actor, what's his name? I can't remember his name. The actor couldn't make it in because he had like a scheduling conflict and stuff. And maybe Doyle's backstory was supposed to be Whistler's backstory. I don't know. But okay, so I have a fun fact about Whistler. So apparently he's continued on in the comics. I personally have not read the comics. I wonder if one of you guys have. Okay, so Whistler is half demon whose father was an agent for the powers that be. Apparently they had agents. And whose mother was a full-blooded demon. The two were executed for this relationship, his parents were. Whistler was given the sight by the powers that be, serving as an agent to maintain balance between good and evil. He was sent to Angel in 1996 to keep the balance, not realizing that Angel would turn to the side of evil by sleeping with the Slayer. And that's from Buffy the Vampire Slayer Encyclopedia by Nancy Holder, which I think is interesting because that's something that's not very explained well in both Becoming 1 and 2, because we're like, who is this guy? How does he have all this information? Why is he here? And so I think knowing that he works for the powers that be and he's there to kind of like set things in motion and balance, it makes a lot of sense. So,
well, I think he was kind of a missed opportunity. I mean, obviously, I think that they really were planning on fleshing his character out more, whether that be on Buffy or Angel. But I think that as much as I do love Doyle, I think Whistler, at least in my opinion, was a way more intriguing character. Just because he was so much of like a, whoa, like, how do you know so much? Where do you come from? Because it was like in season 1, Angel was the one who kind of had that like omniscient knowledge. And we were like, whoa, where are you getting this knowledge from?
That's true.
And so it's weird to have it in season 2, have someone have way more knowledge than Angel does. So I think it would have been really cool to have him on Angel. I mean, I loved Doyle as a character and everything. So I'm not saying that Doyle should have not been there. But I think that, I don't know, Whistler just had this creepy, like...
Creepy.
Like he did. He's a little creepy. Like
yeah,
he had this creepy knowledge to him that like it was like, where are you getting all your information? And I also think he was so what's the word? He was so impartial that it's almost interesting to watch him, because you're like, do you actually want to be good, or are you just relaying a message?
Well, I think it's really the reason why Doyle's kind of underwhelming at first for me. He really grew on me for, the 13 episodes that we had him, or like 8. I think it's the fact that they literally just took what Whistler's character was supposed to be and then just made it into Doyle, because he's supposed to be half human, half demon, which I think is an interesting concept, because he's supposed to mirror what Angel's going through and tell him, hey, there's hope for you, because as far as we've seen, I said this in the non-spoiler version, but as far as we've seen, we've only ever seen demons and then like humans. And so Angel's the first one that we've seen. It's like, okay, he's a vampire, but he has a soul. We haven't seen a demon that's has a conscience, is like half human, half demon. So I think the idea of Whistler is really awesome, but then he leaves. And then you have Doyle, who's like exactly the same. So I think maybe that's why he's a little bit underwhelming.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. I loved it when you brought that up in I think it was Becoming Part 1. We were talking about how Angel's never met a quote unquote good demon before. And so for Angel, it gave him hope that he could become someone someday. Bangel Insurgent says, yeah, exactly. Doyle took over the part of Whistler in terms of being the connection to the powers that be. And I think if Glenn Quinn hadn't had to leave, he would have had a significant role in keeping Angel on track when he starts to have his identity crisis in the later seasons. Doyle is definitely a more charismatic character, but it's weird that Whistler was set up as the guy who came and retrieved Angel from the alley and put him on track to help Buffy, and then he didn't appear at all in Angel. Shame. It's true. I think, unfortunately, like, that's what happens when you add this random character in and then are like, ooh, let's make a season or make a show, and then try to add that character in. It makes it really kind of odd. But I think honestly, Whistler is possibly the weakest link of becoming part 1 and part 2, which isn't saying much because those episodes are fantastic in and of themselves. But I think that if we had had a later tie-in with him, it would have just been like, ooh, this is so good, you know?
I think he wouldn't have been the weakest link if, like, again, what you said, if he came in later. And I really think that they had plans for him. Like, he's
probably
set up to have, he kind of just reminds me of like an Angel in season 1. Like, I mean, less brooding and hot, but like way more just like a omniscient, I'm here to drop information and leave.
The green didn't work for you, Leah?
Definitely, no, not Doyle, Whistler.
I know. He's like, I want to be like you, but I don't want to dress like you.
Oh, yeah, no, literally.
Do you guys think Whistler and Cordelia would have been a thing?
What?
Absolutely not.
Oh, because Doyle.
Doyle and Cordelia were things.
Here's the thing.
I'm not
this is why,
pulling this out of my butt.
This is why I think that Doyle seemed more human and attached to like the world. Whereas like Whistler is a lot more objective and is just kind of like a messenger.
Is he though?
And
He's
so,
over there like, can I have a hot dog? I love the world.
Well, just because he eats a hot dog doesn't mean he wants to go and make out with a girl. Like, but I think that like Doyle was a human aspect that we probably really needed in Angel. Because, I mean, Angel is so out of touch because he's literally a vampire that it's like having another person that like is kind of only half in the world would have been really hard.
Everyone's very much against Whistler and Cordelia. I agree. Whistler just has a creepiness to him. And also, was I the only person that as I'm watching, especially part 2, when he's talking with Buffy, I felt like he was literally mansplaining Buffy's role and her job to her. And she's over here like, hello, like, I'm the Slayer. I've been here, did that, died for that. Like, I don't need to be told, like, you have to sacrifice. It comes down to you being by yourself. I feel like Buffy already knows that. And so I think Whistler's role was, he was supposed to kind of be a Giles stand-in in a lot of ways too, because Giles was not there to relay that information. And Leah. And so it just came across as just really like,
I was showing my Appa and Toothless.
Yes, I know. I can see taking pictures. But it just came across as very, I don't know, like, I know more than you. And we're like, no, who are you, dude? Like, anyway. All right. So let's talk about, because I know there's a couple people that are wanting to talk about this. Let's jump into the controversial Angel and Buffy age gap.
We'll be here all day.
It is one of the things that I hear most often in regards to anti-Angel is the idea that Angel was predatory and that because of the age gap, it was pedophilic. Is that a word? Pedophilic? I don't know. It was creepy predatory. And he was stalking her. We'll say predatory. So I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are. I feel like we've kind of already talked about it in the podcast.
Bex is going to call in.
I can give people a tour of my stuffed animals while we're waiting. Okay, so this is Appa from Avatar The Last Airbender. If you haven't seen it, please go watch it. This is Toothless, because How to Train Your Dragon is my favorite movie. This is Cal. He's a little hippo. This is Toto. He's from later.
Hi! This is Bex.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
We're good. We're so excited to see you.
You look so pretty.
Oh, thanks. I put makeup on for you guys.
So did we. Normally we're like in sweats and yeah. Okay, so talk to us.
I don't understand how people are consuming vampire fiction if they are unable to suspend their disbelief about age gaps not meaning the same thing in a vampire-human relationship that they do in real life. Like, you signed up for this when you decided to engage with vampire fiction. Not to mention, I know you guys are on the same page, but not to mention that Angel was 100% not the one pursuing in this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And also a 16-year-old who has to put her life on the line every night, who is expected to exhibit adult levels of maturity about literally life and death situations and responsibilities, and has a really high likelihood of not surviving to an age of like legal maturity, which is also different state to state and country to country, cannot be held to the same standards as a real world minor. Like, I'm not saying that we should just accept dodgy, toxic relationships across the board, but this isn't one of those. And guys, it pisses me off.
Yeah. And I think it's important to note too that when they created the character of Angel, and we talked about this before too, Angel was supposed to be 17, like between 17 and 20 years old. So there wasn't supposed to be this massive age gap. And David Boreanaz looked like he could be close-ish to that age in season 1. But we talked about too, there was something that happened between season 1 and season 2. Like David just like, and I'm not going to say like he got old, but like he looked older. And so it became really hard. Yeah, he didn't look like a teenager. And so it became really hard to buy a 16-year-old, or I guess Buffy turned 17, a 17-year-old sleeping with a guy that looked like he was 27, 28. And then later on in the show, Angel too, obviously like David Boreanaz was in his mid-30s at that point. So then it was like very clear that Angel, the series, needed to reflect that. And so it needed to be more of an adult type show and its metaphors and all the other stuff. And so I think sometimes when people are saying, oh, it's creepy, they're looking at Angel and Angel, the series, and reflecting back to Angel and Buffy together in season 2 and 3. And it wasn't even like, it didn't even look that extreme at that point either.
Yeah. But also, can I say that why is it that Buffy and Angel are the only couple out of all the vampire and high school girl lore that is being crapped on for pedophilia? Why?
Ooh,
like, why?
Yes.
You look
Exactly.
at Twilight. You look at Twilight, it's romanticized. No one talks about it. And she's in high school
That's
for,
true.
I mean, I've only seen the first movie, but it's like, she's in high
Twilight's
school
a big
for what, two, 3 movies? And then Vampire Diaries, every single like human and vampire relationship, one of them is in high school and it's usually the girl. And they're in there for years.
And to add on to what Tabby's saying. No, you're fine. I was just going to say, to add on to what Tabby's saying, a lot of those shows, it's even creepier because the older vampire is choosing to be in a high school environment. Like, go to high school classes, attend them, enroll.
What do you expect?
When they're literally like 100 years
That's
old.
true.
Like, literally, Stefan in Vampire Diaries, again, not trying to crap on Vampire Diaries, y'all. I'm sorry. But he's graduated high school like over 10 times. But he just chooses to enroll over and over and over again. That's kind of predatory. Like, I love him, but like,
at least Angel's not in high school.
Yeah, Angel's not trying to be young. Like, he's not even really like, the only reason he started interacting with Buffy was to save her.
And what Beck said, Buffy's the one who's pursuing the relationship. Every time in the first season, he's always like, I'm older than you. He's like saying like, hey, like, I don't want to get you hurt, like all these sorts of things. And Buffy's the one who's like making all the moves. It's not like he's being predatory. He's not in high school. He's not stalking her. Like, he's being helpful. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, big age gaps are really suspicious. Not always. Big age gaps can be suspicious in real life, partly because you also like aren't always sure of the motives of the older person. And like, are they trying to coerce or manipulate the younger person into doing something that they don't understand or that's going to hurt them? But in the case of this series, like, you literally see their relationship develop from the beginning. Okay, fine. You get the very beginning in this flashback at the end of season 2. But like, all through season 1, he was there for business. Like, he pops up every now and again with little tidbits of information for Buffy, and then he disappears again. He really tries to keep his distance, but there's this great live journal blog from years ago by an author called Lettered. I don't know their real name, but she writes this great line where she describes Angel falling in empathy with Buffy the first time that he sees her. And I use it all the time because I think it's so true, accurate, and beautiful. But he sees her outside the school, and he wants to protect her from that darkness that he's so familiar with. Like, he had his life taken away from him and was placed into this alternate experience without any choice, and that's literally what has happened to Buffy. So he is literally there for business at the beginning, and he tries to fight his attraction to her, and she pursues him. He never pressures her. If anything, she is like constant, as you've talked about this, she's constantly having to like persuade him to go a bit further. But he's there for her the entire time, and she has to grow up way too quickly. And I love that she had someone there for her who understood the darkness of it all and could help her through it. Like, what would she have done in the first 3 seasons?
Yeah.
But also, like, someone mentioned this in the comments too, and I never really thought about it, but why is no one saying that about, like, Anya in season 3 with Xander?
Yep.
And she's way older and has a conscience, and she, like, Angel didn't, you know? I don't know. It's just, I feel like sometimes there's blurred lines.
Anya was technically in the body of like a high schooler now. So like,
so is Angel. So is Angel.
He
technically was supposed to be turned at 17.
No, I know. I agree with you guys. I'm just saying that, like, you could. Yeah, I know. Don't point your pitchforks at me, man. But, like, I'm saying Anya was literally like, her consciousness and everything was literally in the body of, like, a, like, literal high school teen. Because we have that whole episode where she goes to, what's his name?
Yeah, the Wish.
Head demon dude.
Yeah.
The head demon dude, where she goes back and she's like, to Hoffren, and she's like, I'm stuck in this like teenage body and I want to get out. So it's like, I'm not saying that it's, you know, that Angel was in the wrong or anything, but I do think you can make a case for saying that, like, Anya was literally forced to be back in a teenage mindset and a teenage body. So that one I think is a little different. But I do understand where it's like,
but aren't vampires stunted emotionally at the age that they were like sired though? I feel like that's the same thing.
Think about it scientifically too. Like, our brains aren't fully matured until I think it's 25 is what it is, maybe a little bit later. And so if Angel is turned before that, he's supposed to be technically the same age as a teenager. And so I kind of see what you're saying, Leah, but I think in a lot of ways it's the same argument. I think Angel's just supposed to be just as young. I think the reason why it goes down a little bit better with Anya is because Anya and Xander look a little closer in age, but also because the majority of their relationship is after high school. So everyone's like, okay. But the thing is, like, they still had a semi-romantic relationship while she was still in high school. And I think, too, because she was actually, like, at Sunnydale, people think, oh, student, versus with Angel, not actually student. Like, yeah, there's just a disconnect there. All right. So now I want to talk about Darla, actually, real fast, since...
Wait, before we move on, David did say something, and since he didn't get to call him, we should say it. He said, my problem is that I think Angel has pretty privilege. He's hot, so people forgive him for sleeping with an underage girl. Buffy's 16. Well, she was 17 when they slept together. I actually have no problem if she were of age, but she's a teen, and it would be illegal and kind of gross. Okay, here's the thing. I agree.
Pretty privilege. I'm dying. I'm absolutely dying.
No, okay. No, I think that is a very valid point, but I also think about the fact that, like, there is such a thing, at least in California, I don't know if it's across the board, but there is, like, the Romeo and Juliet rule, where it's pretty much like, the legal age of consent out here is, I think it's 16 or 17, but if there is that 3-year age gap where, like, a girl is 17 or a guy is 17, and then the significant other is within 3 years, it's legal.
Did you catch that comment about that our brother said about how Angel has pretty privilege?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I caught
Did
it.
you see
I caught it.
You caught it. Okay. All right. So these comments are hilarious. Everyone's Leah, same with Spike. People forgive him for the sexual assault because he's hot. Also Xander. And then she says, they're all hot, LOL. It's true.
Not Xander.
So this is really interesting. So I watched the show when it was airing in Australia, and the age of consent in Australia when I was watching it was 16. And no one, I was on the forums at the time, guys, I'm that old, but no one was talking about the age gap when the show was airing. Like it wasn't.
That's so interesting.
It wasn't a thing that people were concerned about. And I get that that's partly because we're much more aware of the problematic content we put out in the 90s now, and we're doing our best to acknowledge it and call it out. But I honestly don't think it applies to this relationship. Also, it definitely does. It's definitely influenced by where each viewer is watching it, because for a lot of the world, that was not an illegal relationship. And it's news to us that people think that Buffy was a victim of statutory rape. I can't get on board with it.
Do you guys think that with the Me Too movement and all the stuff that's been happening in the world, we're more aware of power dynamics too? And that's also kind of put on a filter of how we view a lot of the stuff back in the 90s. And so people are going, oh my goodness, there's a huge, obviously drastic age gap, however you want to say it. And so they're there's a power dynamic that's off here. Do you think that's part of it?
Yeah, I absolutely think that's a huge part of it. And I also think that in this very small fandom that we're all a part of, the age gap has come partly from that new lens that we're viewing everything, and partly because the ships are so divided and so aggressive towards each other that people are looking. I don't know who is involved in that. I think it's become a way of tearing down Angel as a character to justify certain other characters. And I feel like actually it does the character of Angel a huge disservice, because he is anything but manipulative with Buffy. It's so clear that all he wants is to protect her. He doesn't mean to fall in love with her, but they fall in love with each other, and there was literally nothing coercive about it.
Yeah, I agree.
I can definitely agree that I think that in general, I hope and wish that in the future we're moving away from the storylines of high school and mixing that gray area of high school with supernatural older men, whether that be vampires or whatever it is, or women, because it can be either or. Because I think that it's too often, and it's it does become gray because it is supernatural. And so it's I hope in the future we move away from that, because it ultimately it hurts their own characters. People like Stefan in Vampire Diaries or Angel in Buffy, they're not predatory, but when you put them in this weird situation, it now makes it hard because people have to defend them or whatever. So I do hope that we move away from that in the future, because it just makes it so hard.
Yeah, I agreed. And we talked about that too. We're it's hard that we have to defend it, because we all obviously all love Angel. It's unfortunate that we have to be yeah, it's probably not the greatest look, even though we know that that power dynamic is not skewed. They're very much equals. So, okay. So kind of leading into that, I actually have a question for you, Beck, since you're here. So kind of talking about Darla transitioning. It's really interesting. I think there's a very clear contrast too between Buffy and Angel's relationship and Angelus and Darla's, and even Angel and Darla's. I feel like there's always a huge power shift, and there's a lot of manipulation. There's a lot of using their affections against each other. I mean, I say affections in quotations because I think it's all very selfish. And so I think that when you see an abuse of power, I think that Darla and Angelus, they're a really good picture of that, simply because you have Darla coercing Angel into becoming a vampire without his knowledge. And then they're equals when they both are unsold. But even then you see like Darla abandons him in that burning barn at some point too. And then later on when Darla when Angel becomes sold, then Darla manipulates him and verbally abuses him. And then, and then Darla becomes human again. And then Angel like uses her and sleeps with her. Like there's just constant using of each other.
And then when Angel when they take Angel's soul away briefly in Angel the series to try and get the answers out of Angelus about whatever that demon was called, then you learn again that like Angel has clearly, like, he has such an understanding of everybody's he's constantly observing everybody, but he never uses that knowledge of everyone against them. But then as soon as that soul leaves, Angelus is like, here's all this information I have on you guys, and I'm gonna destroy you with it.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so kind of like transitioning into talking about Darla real fast. I have one more question for you. So they obviously, Angel and Darla have a complicated relationship. There's a lot of parallels between Buffy and Darla. And as in like Buffy's the light side, Darla's the dark side of Angel's like, toxic relationship, healthy relationship, to boil it down to its simplest form. Do you guys think that sold Angel and Darla could have been a good couple under different circumstances? Do you think that they could have been healthy? And then on top of that, do you see Darla as Buffy's rival, like the closest to Buffy's rival for Angel's affections in the Buffyverse? I know that's a lot. I'm sorry.
I think at least for me, sorry, I have that. You asked like 3 questions.
I did. I'm so sorry. Just answer whatever you want to answer.
Can you say them again?
Yes, I can break it down. Okay, so do you guys think? Well, we'll say the first one. Do you guys think?
Healthy or unhealthy?
That sold Darla and Angel could be a good couple. And I'm not talking about like, let's say nothing had happened with all of the crap that happened in their past. Like Darla she was human and she had a soul, and she kind of came to that moment of like, man, like I really like messed up right before Drusilla comes in and changes her. And they have a really like pure moment between the two of them. Do you think in the future, whatever, they could have ever gotten to a place where they were good for each other? Okay, go ahead.
I think no.
Okay.
But I think it's only because so much damage had been caused to each other by each other, and they had such a long history that I think that them trying to work to a place where their relationship would be healthy for each other would take years and years of emotional baggage and damage that they would need to work through together. And ultimately, I don't think that Angel, I know Angel never loved Darla. So there would also be that huge obstacle of like, Darla loved Angel, but Angel didn't love Darla. And I think that at this point, if Angel didn't love Darla, he never would.
I view Darla and Angel, I'm thinking specifically in, I think it's at the end of season 2 of Angel or season 3 where she's like a human and then is like really struggling and he's helping her through stuff. Am I thinking that right?
Mm-hmm.
I view that relationship very similar and how Buffy and Spike should have been handled in season 7. So like Buffy kind of helping Spike through a lot of stuff that he had gone through, like him being newly ensouled and blah, 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 blah. But then they try to push a romance when we had just seen all the mess that had happened between them, and it's extremely fresh, and they try to just push that really fast on the viewers. I think that was not the best decision. I don't think that should have happened. I think it would have been maybe more impactful if Buffy was like, oh, I'm going to help you, and that's pretty much it. And that's what Angel does to Darla. There's no romance between them at that point when she's not like, when when she's like a human and she's like trying to like figure things out. He's like helping her. And I agree with Leah. I don't think that he ever loved her. I don't think that they would have been there romantically from Angel's perspective.
Yeah, I mean, they don't know each other as anything other than soulless, right? So there would be all of that, like literally hundreds of years of history between them with the like many gruesome murders and atrocities that they committed. Would they ever like get past that? I don't know. I think it would always be a kind of rehabilitation kind of scenario. And like sometimes love springs from that, but I can imagine it being quite codependent. So I would still prefer Darla and Angel than Cordy and Angel, but I'm not sure.
I agree with that one.
Ensouled Angel and ensouled Darla with all of their history would work long term. It would be interesting to see what would have happened if that had gone ahead and then like Buffy turns up and then what happens? Yeah.
I think for me, I think it is simplifying or even watering down an incredibly nuanced and complicated relationship that's gone on for multiple millennia between Darla and Angel to say that they didn't love each other. I think that there are different types of love, and I think that it's more nuanced than that. I think it's a mix of I think there was something there. I'm not going to say it was to the level of Buffy because we all know that's not true, but I think there's a part of Angel that did care for Darla, but it's really hard to suss out like what exactly the depth of that was and what exactly the actual I don't know, quality of it was, simply because there was a lot of guilt at the very end. And Angel even says that he wanted to save Darla because he felt like he could save himself, which again was, you know, him being selfish again. It goes down like it's that mess that they have of constantly using each other. The thing is though, I think that yeah, I think there was too much selfishness, but I do think there was a part of Angel that did care for Darla. I think there was just too much going on. So I don't know. Emily says an Angel loves at least 3 people at different points in his life, and they're all valid. And I think she's right to a certain extent. I think Angel did care for Cordelia. I know we're all like, bleh. Did care for Cordelia, did care for Buffy, did care for Darla at certain points. I think that it just looked different at each point. So yeah, I don't know. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, Bex, I'm going to bring Leah in.
Yeah, cool. Bye.
All right, Leah, if you want to go ahead and like pop in, you totally can. Am I the insurgent Kangel stan? You probably are, Emily. And yeah, if you want to totally write out or come on and tell us why, we're completely open to that. I love hearing the differing opinions.
We're not sitting here trying to slander Cordelia or Angel. We love them both. And I mean, I won't speak for Sarah and Tabby, but I love them both so much. But I think it's just together, they both lost. Like, I feel like the writers had to take out certain parts of their personality to make them work as a unit. And I just didn't like that, especially Cordelia. I really feel like they lost a lot of Cordelia's character to make them work as a couple. And I kind of hated that. Even when she was dating Xander, I feel like she was still Cordelia. But when she was like with, and Doyle too, but when she was with Angel, it was like they wanted to make her like Angel's cheerleader instead of making her Cordelia. And I really feel like when she's with Angel, they did a disservice to her character.
Well, I think that's supposed to kind of, the whole point of healthy relationships is that it encourages you to be yourself and to be the best version of yourself. And I think that Cordelia didn't even seem like Cordelia. She didn't have her wit to her. She didn't seem like she was her own independent character. I don't know. I just felt like it was like, she wasn't Cordelia to me during that time. I was like, this doesn't seem like, and I feel like in a TV show, you should never have to try to force relationships. There should be chemistry that you kind of create. Like anytime there's like this like big like relationship in TV shows, most of the time they were not planned. like I think that like Stefan and like Elena were like going to be endgame, or like I think of what's oh my gosh, what's the one with Pacey and Joey?
Do you mean Dawson's
Dawson's
Creek?
Creek?
Yeah, Dawson's Creek. Those two relationships, they were like created because the characters had so much chemistry, and I think that that's
Right,
like how it should
right.
be done.
Yeah. Hi, Emily. Welcome to the
Hi.
podcast.
Hiya.
All right. Tell us your thoughts on Kangel.
So I agree a little bit, like with the actual way that I think Kangel was written, especially in late season 3 and season 4. I think it suffered a lot for the way that it was presented. But I don't put the blame of that with the Cordy Angel relationship. I think there was so much stuff going on behind the scenes with Chris Carpenter and Joss Whedon, which we all know about. I feel like the damage came from that. So I think the reason I prefer Cordy and Angel, and like I'm probably in the minority, I think like Buffy and Angel is fine. Like I find it very serviceable, but it's just not my thing.
Yeah.
I always liked that they were very much like a slow burn relationship. They weren't Cordelia and Angel weren't designed to be a couple.
Sure.
Like they were, these two characters, they became very good friends. I enjoyed their dynamic, their sort of like slight bickering. And I felt like their relationship evolved very slowly and naturally. 3 seasons on Buffy and then 2 seasons on Angel before they start hinting at and moving towards the more romantic stuff. And I just found that a much more natural development. And that's why I tend to prefer that relationship, even though when they move into the full-on romance stuff, some of the stuff they do there isn't quite perfect. I think the season 3 finale of Angel especially is very out of character for Cordy in what she does. But yeah, I think that's more like that stuff happens to happen at the same time as they do the Cordy Angel stuff rather than being because of it.
That's an interesting perspective. I think I can appreciate the slow burn because I think it's taken a couple rewatches to watch Buffy and Angel and be like, oh, okay, so it is a little slower than when I initially watched it. When I first watched it, I was kind of like, whoa. And I've heard that from several people. Like they jumped from 0 to 100. It feels like really fast, going from, oh, we're not in a relationship, or I don't know if he likes me, to the next episode, she's calling him her boyfriend, So I think there are times where it does feel like it goes very fast. And so again, it's a supernatural show. So we all know it's like, it's going to happen for one, but also it's going to happen fast. But I think in the real world, how Cordelia and Angel's relationship did end up happening was probably more realistic in the sense that you start off as friends first and go. So I can definitely appreciate that. Do you feel like, because I think my biggest beef with the Cordelia and Angel relationship is mostly I feel like they had to change Cordelia a lot. And again, that could be because of behind the scenes and the writers. Do you feel like they changed Cordelia's character a lot to make her compatible with Angel?
I don't think so. I think, especially you see in season 3 of Angel, that Cordelia has undergone a lot of character development, but she is still very much Cordelia. She still can be a little bit selfish. She's a little bit sassy. She is more empathetic and tends to like filter herself a little bit more when it's appropriate. But I think she is very distinctly Cordy.
Okay.
And I think she only becomes very much not Cordy in season 4 and perhaps the very end of season 3.
Yeah.
And why that is, I can't know. Maybe it was because of the Cordy Angel relationship. I always felt it was more because of what was happening with Chris Carpenter that just sort of
I would agree.
torpedoed that. And I think I especially point to You're Welcome in season 5 as an episode that is like such a good Cordelia episode. She is so good in that. She is so very much her. And that is also very strong with the Cordelia Angel romance. And I think that episode is like, when we reach that, is, oh, that's what I've been wanting from the Cordelia Angel romance this whole time, rather than actually what we got in season 4.
It's like too little too late at that point. You're like, dang it, come on.
Yeah. It's like, kill him, it's so good.
Before I watched Angel, I knew that Cordelia and Angel got together, and my initial reaction was like, no one is good for Angel except for Buffy. But I think watching it was very different because I was like, oh, like they're both, they didn't, it's hard to say this, but like I don't personally like the way the writers did it, but I also feel like if Angel were to fall for anyone else, at least in my opinion, the fact that he fell for someone like Cordy, who's just so amazing and so strong and powerful, I was like, okay, thank you. Like, I'd rather him fall for that than someone who just wasn't worthy of him. And Cordelia was.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I think all of Angel's love interests are just really strong characters, so it's nice
he knows how to pick them for sure.
That. He does, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, personally, this is probably opening a can of worms, but personally for me, I feel like Angel's love interests were generally more interesting than Buffy's love interests. I mean, Darla for sure is evil, and I don't think we generally ship Darla with Angel, but I will say I think Darla is still way more interesting than Riley, so at least there was that.
I mean, Riley pulls the average down a lot. Yeah. I love Angel, I love Spike. Really drag
Girl, don't worry. We're all on the same page about Riley.
Yeah, season 4 is going to be fun. Guys want to come back in season 4? We can all be on the same page at that point. No.
Oh, God. That's just...
Thank you, Emily, for calling in. It was really interesting to hear from you.
Nice, thanks.
Thank you.
That's really cool. I feel like I don't meet a lot of people who have that perspective about Angel and Cordy. And so I think that it was interesting to hear. And I absolutely agree with her that Cordelia and Angel got kind of screwed over. Whatever was
I think
happening,
we can all agree
either
on
behind
that,
the scenes or whatever, the writers and stuff, they screwed them over. And I think whether you're a Kingle shipper or not, like they deserved more than what they got.
Yeah, and Cordelia in general just deserved more. It's a shame that Joss Whedon is a prick, that there was so much change going on in the networks, and that there was just Joss is being stretched thin too amongst 3 different shows. And I think Angel, Chris McCarpenter has referred to Angel as Joss Whedon's redheaded stepchild, in the sense that Angel was the show that would have suffered. Like Joss moved a lot of his great writers and showrunners onto Firefly to kind of get that started, and then poured everything into that. And then Firefly was only 1 season, and Angel suffered in between that. So it's a shame. Oh, Buffyverse Archive says, "I love Riley" in all caps. Woo! This is gonna be good, man. So I should.
Yeah, us too. Wait, before we do, Leah is trying to get on.
Leah is trying to get on. Yeah.
Leah, sorry.
It's okay. All right.
Narcissist.
Leah's like,
I know. I
everything.
assume that she's going to use my pronunciation. So pretty.
There she is.
Leah!
Hi.
Hello.
All
Can
right.
you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. I just wanted to come on. I think we were talking about like Darla and then Kangel.
Yeah.
All over the place. That's what happened.
Yeah, I kind of like lost my train of thought. I wanted to say something about Darla. I think one of the scenes that, just in terms of like answering your question, so I think I like agree with a lot of what you guys were saying about how, I don't think that they could have gotten to like a healthy point ever in their relationship. The scene that really like hits that for me is in season 2 of Angel, when she's a human and she goes to the hotel to him and then asks him to turn her. I think that's like one of the scenes that really just represents that relationship, whether they're souled or like soulless. Darla says, I find that I need you just as I've always needed you. So I think when they're soulless, like they spent 150 years together and they needed each other. So I think that's how they cared about each other, even though you can't like really care when you're soulless. And then as you said, Sarah, I think it was you, about how I feel like Angel views human Darla as like a way for him to make up for the things that he's done. Like if he saves her, then he can save himself, because them two together cause so much destruction. So it's like he's always going to associate her with his past and the horrors of his past. And I just don't think that Angel would ever be able to view her as anything else. I think he does care about her because it's pretty evident. I think he's willing to die for her in like the trial, right? I think it's like such a traumatic, Angel's past is such a traumatic thing for him. I don't think that he could ever move past that. And Darla's so intertwined with that he would just never be able to like look at her any differently, I don't think.
Yeah.
That's kind of my opinion on that. Yeah.
No, I totally agree. And I think that's where I fall too, just because Angel's already wrestling with his past, with the fact that he has Angelus inside of him. I don't think having Darla there would be healthy for him. Like, he's already got so much weight and a burden on him. Then on top of that too, Angel tends to, I think he's kind of just very empathetic about the people around him. He tends to kind of like absorb. And so
Right.
I think it just would be unhealthy all around. And again, like, there's been so much abuse and using and misusing of each other that it just, I just don't know that it would have worked. And it's a shame because they have great chemistry. And I think if you take away the past and everything, I think Darla, as we see, had the potential to be a really great woman if she had a soul and stuff. And she actually had the potential to be selfless. Like, her last act was literally so selfless after like hundreds of years of being selfish and using people. So I think there was potential, but for them to, with all the baggage, I think it wouldn't have worked.
No.
Yeah. Yep. You made it on.
I made it on. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Leah. Feel free to pop back on now that you know how to get on here if you have something else to say.
I don't know how to get out, guys. Hold on.
I'll get you out. Okay. Bye, Leah. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for being patient with us as everybody comes on and off, you guys. This is really interesting. I'm having so much fun talking with you guys. I hope this is interesting for you too.
I know. I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as we are.
This is really fun. Okay. We're going to move on a little bit. I'm going to talk a little bit about parallels with Darla, and then we're going to move on to Xander, which I know some of you are excited to talk about, and then, we'll go from there. All right. So I think it's really interesting. We obviously know there's the correlations between Darla saying, close your eyes to Angel when she changes him, and Buffy also telling Angel to close his eyes when she kills him. But there's another correlation, which I think is really interesting. And I had never figured it out until I was like doing some research and stuff. So when Darla changes Angel, she, draws a line across her chest, and it's very like a sexual metaphor and stuff. Well, when I think it's the episode The Trial, I don't remember which episode it is, when Drusilla comes to change Darla back, Drusilla looks at Angel and draws a line across her chest the exact same way Darla did, and brings Darla to her chest, but it's not sexual. It's like a mother nursing her baby. And we know Drusilla like constantly talks and refers to Darla as, as her child, like, oh, I'm going to be a mother. I'm going to give birth. And then in the previous, before that, she'd called her grandmother. And so I think that like, it's supposed to be a picture of like, as the vampire is changing the human that they're changing or whatever, how they change them is reflective of the relationship they have with them and that they're choosing to have with them. And so it's all sorts of perverted, twisted metaphors of sexuality, but also like perverse parenthood and familial relationships and stuff. And I just thought that was really interesting. So a little bit of like background too. After this in the timeline, if we've seen Angel, we know after this, Angelus goes on to kill his entire family after Darla changes him. And then him and Darla travel through South Wales and northern England, killing people along the way before they meet up with the Master. And in the episode Darla, we see Angelus meet the Master, and Angelus actually mocks the Master for living underground in the sewers, saying that he prefers to live above ground in the fancy places and prefers a bed. Angel chooses to live in the sewers, in alleyways, feeding on rats when he becomes sold, even though that's obviously not his preference, because he's so afraid of hurting people. And I think that's just a huge, like, that really speaks to his character. The fact that like he recognizes the danger that he is now become like what he once mocked. And I think that that's just really, really interesting. Darla also mentions multiple times, she says that she really enjoys The View. And I think that that's interesting because when I was watching the episode Darla again, and so, Angel's like, yeah, Darla's going to be somewhere with a view. She really likes the view. And then immediately cuts to Angela standing before the master. And I've been really like wrestling with going, okay, why was it exactly? What was it in Angel, or Liam, I guess I should say, that made Darla go, yeah, him. He's the person that I want to be with for the rest of my life or whatever. I really think it came down to, one, she was lonely, but two, he had a pretty face. And like, we know that Angel is constantly referred to as the person with the angelic face. But the fact that they say she likes something with a view and then it cuts to Angelus, I think is just hysterical, that at the end of the day, she's just like, he's hot, I'll take him. That cracked me up.
I think I agree with what Emily said in the comments, that like Darla and Angelus's relationship was very much like a motherly type of relationship. I think it was kind of twisted in the sense where she was like, oh, I can show you all these things. We see that in Becoming Part 1, where she's like enticed by the idea of like showing him and exploring things with him and like being able to teach him what a vampire is like. And I think that even though it's twisted, I think it's such a cool idea for villains and lovers, especially for vampires, because like we see like them being corrupt, but we don't really see how corrupt their relationship can be. Because I think that Drusilla and Spike's relationship is very much romanticized in season 2, and I like it. I think it's really fun to watch, but I like the fact that they really go into the dark side when it comes to Angelus's character, which just makes him way more interesting to me.
Kind of going along with what Tabby said, Emily said, I think all the vampires have a very twisted familial thing going on. So
yeah.
Pretty much what you're saying. It's weird that they're all like, it's this weird like sexual but also like family thing that's going on. And it makes it very like twisted and creepy, because you're like, oh, like one minute they're referring to each other as like a father or whatever, and the next minute they're like have weird sexual tension, and you're like, this feels illegal.
Well, Drew says that too. She's like, oh, like, is daddy mad or like whatever. Mm-hmm. She says that like in I don't remember which episode.
In Darla, yeah. But, well, and Angel and Surgeon, I mean, Spike's mom literally tried to have sex with him. So yeah, it's consistent. It's all the way across the board.
I forget about that.
Ew, thanks, Bex. Yeah, no, that's totally true. And I mean, I think I quoted back in Becoming Part 1, Julie Denz, or Julie Benz. Is it Julie Benz? Julie Denz. Anyway, the actress who plays Darla, she talks a lot about how, she saw it as like a mother/lover relationship. It's very twisted and very
That's
perverted.
What Leah said in the comments.
Yep. I also just want to point out, I mean, we all probably know the parallel, but I was watching the episode Lullaby where Connor is born and where Darla sacrifices herself, because I thought it would just be, hey, we don't have to talk about Connor. We're just going to talk about Darla. But there's a parallel, obviously, between Angel dying in an alley and Connor being born in an alley. And I think that's really cool. And they even recognize it. Darla says, Angel, our baby's going to die right here in this alley. You died in an alley, remember, Angel? I remember. And then we have that whole thing. I'm sorry. I wanted to say I'm sorry. This child Angel is the one good thing we ever did together and the only good thing. And I just thought that was like a beautiful parallel that, Angel died and yet he had a second chance with Connor. And then Darla dies in the alley too. So it all just goes full circle. All right. Let's talk about Xander. Moving on. All right, so let's talk about the combination of the library scene and the kick his ass scene. So the fight that they have in the scene in the library is very, very similar to the one that they have in Helpless, where they reference back the kick his ass scene. Only this time they're discussing Anya, and we talked about earlier about, how there's the very inconsistent within the show and without the show or outside of the show. A lot of people tend to be harder on Angel than they do tend to be with Anya. And I love that Buffy it wasn't as well-rounded as it could have been and as in-depth as we wanted it to be, but she addresses it. The roles are completely reversed, with Xander not wanting Buffy to kill Anya, but Buffy telling him that she made the hard choice to kill Angel. I think Buffy is far more compassionate with Xander in that scene in Helpless than Xander is with Buffy in this scene in the library. And I think that contrast needs to be made. Xander is very harsh with Buffy and basically is like, what does he say to her? He says, who cares? Or so, what does it matter? And Buffy's like, I care. And then here in Helpless, Xander's going like, I love her, Buffy. And Buffy's like, they're
Wait,
going,
do you mean
yeah.
selfless?
Oh, I meant Selfless, not Helpless. Sorry. Yes,
Oh,
Selfless.
sorry. I was getting confused. My bad.
Sorry, my bad. I get those confused. The episode where they're going to try and kill Anya because she went and killed all those frat boys. Yes, Selfless. Thank you. But I think that Xander saying all of that is very different from how he feels in Selfless. Go ahead, Leah. I know you want to go off.
Sorry, I'm not trying to cut you off. Everyone knows my opinions about Xander, but I think that it is so hard for me to watch back this episode specifically because, yes, Xander does not handle himself well in this episode at all. I think most people can agree with that. I think what makes it worse is that it's not an isolated incident. He does this with no compassion towards Buffy, her feelings, anything. But then when the roles are reversed and he has to make a choice between his loved ones and the innocent, he's all like blaming Buffy and is like saying like, oh no, you shouldn't do this, blah, blah, blah. You should have compassion, blah, blah, blah. But when she had to kill her lover, she was selfish for even considering not doing it or things like that. And I think that when I remember watching that scene where she's like, well, do you remember when you told me to like go kill Angel? And I remember sitting there and being like, finally someone is telling him like, you have such a double standard for yourself and for Buffy. Like, I just, watching the scene makes me so angry because I'm like, obviously neither of them should have to be in that place where they have to choose between the innocent and the person that they love. But at the end of the day, Buffy is the Slayer and she has to make that choice for the sake of people. And she did that with Angel and she was going to do that with Anya. And as much as that sucks, I love that Buffy is a consistent character. She chooses people over herself every single day. And I think that that's what's so frustrating about Xander is that even after seasons of character growth, where he does get better, he still reverts back to a selfish version of himself.
Go off, Queen. No, I 100% agree. And I think that links into the whole kick his ass scene. I mean, we all, whether his motivations were right or not, because I think his motivations can be debated. I think it's possible Xander had good motivations. We can't know for certain. I still think it was the wrong decision because of Selfless. When Buffy is telling him it's the same thing, telling him at the end of the day, I'm the one who has to actually commit the act. So I'm the one that should be calling the shots on this. And I'm also the Slayer, so I have the power. And that is a fundamental problem that Xander didn't understand back in Becoming Part 2 when he took it upon himself to say, hey, I don't actually like that Willow's doing this spell and I don't like Angel, so I'm just not going to relay some information, you know? So I think that it's good that Buffy at least addresses it in Selfless. It's just very, very frustrating that we never actually get to that point in the show, like where we're actually like, okay, let's full on address this.
It just feels like that everyone always craps on Buffy for like making a mistake, and then where something where she's completely in the right to be angry about, they wait 5 seasons and then just skip over it when they bring it up. It's like, come on, you guys. Like, I understand that having your main protagonist always going through crap is very entertaining to watch and it's very enticing, but it's like at some point we got to treat Buffy with some respect. Sometimes I'm just like, it's very frustrating. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, there's a lot to say about it. And all right, so I have a couple questions for you guys. Okay, so we all know, and I have mixed feelings about this. We all know about the whole Xander is the heart thing. So we have Buffy as the hand, Giles is the brain or the head, the mind, and Xander is the heart. So I don't know if I can't remember which episode it was that we talked about it, but I saw a really interesting comment where there was someone that had made a defense for Xander and said, when Xander is the heart, it's the idea that Xander is a reflection of Buffy's heart, which I'm like, I cringe every time I say it, but hear me out. So it's the idea that I read this. So it's the idea that when Xander is saying things like in particular, like in When She Was Bad, Willow gets kidnapped. And Xander comes up to Buffy and says, if Willow dies, I'll kill you or something. I don't remember what he says. He says something and Buffy's kind of sitting there in silent agreement. The idea, I think, and I don't think it's done well, is that Xander's written to verbalize sometimes how Buffy is viewing herself and viewing the situation. You have in Passion when Xander talks about how Angel needs to die, says faster pussycat, kill, kill. And everyone's like, Xander, and Buffy goes, no, he's right. There's this idea, I think sometimes Buffy doesn't verbalize things a lot. She's like very internalizes things. And so sometimes the things that Xander says, as harsh as they may be, reflect how harsh Buffy is on herself.
But I think that that's just Buffy being hard on herself. And this is coming from somebody who's the exact same. I think all these awful things about myself all the time. And then anytime someone confirms that, I want to agree with them because I'm like, you could say whatever you want. I'm pretty sure I say way worse in my head. And so I think that it's unfair to say that like he's the heart, but he only sees it in one perspective. And he's like always the one that's like crapping on Buffy's decisions. It's like you never really see him crap on Will's decisions. You never see him crap on Giles. It's always Buffy's. And so if that's what they're going with, that's kind of frustrating because it's like they could have gone with a more softer side to that. But it's like the only time you really see that is when he's like angry with Buffy or like trying to like question her motives or like whatever. I just don't know if that's what they're trying to go with. I just don't like that.
I've never heard that perspective before, Sarah, and I think that's really, really interesting. I feel like they wouldn't do that to a whole character because then it just pretty much dumbs Xander down into just a aspect of Buffy, and I feel like that's kind of does a disservice to his character because it's like, you know, then he's not even his own real person anymore. But I always viewed it as, because I remember when I first watched the show and you told me like, oh, the metaphor of like how they're all work together as like one body and how Xander was the heart. And I remember being like, that's a joke, right? Like Xander's not the heart. But then I thought about it and it logically makes sense because Xander is human. Therefore he and actually human. He's not a witch. He's not a slayer. He's not a watcher. He has no supernatural abilities whatsoever. The only thing he has is the fact that he was a soldier for one episode and somehow they use that for seasons to come. But it makes sense that he's the heart because he has the most human in him. He has the most attachment to the world because he is the one that is the world. He lives in the world. He is a product of it. And I think that he's the heart because ultimately humans are flawed and they are kind of corrupt in a lot of ways. And so I think that Xander is the heart because I think he kind of reminds the group like what they're fighting for in a way of just being like, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with what you're saying. And someone referred to it as Xander is very passionate and he's also impulsive. And that's the heart, right? The heart just wants things and it does it without even thinking about it a lot of times. And so Xander's a representation of that. And so I try to remember that and give him grace, even though I think he does crappy things, because I think that he still is trying to represent something, whether that's, how males feel about themselves in the 90s or whatever. But I think the whole heart issue of it all is, I really appreciate that perspective of he's human, he's flawed is just really interesting. Emily wants to call in. Yes, call in about the heart thing.
Yeah, I was about to say
Go
Emily's
ahead.
asking.
You guys can call in at any time. Go ahead. You don't even have to ask.
Even if we've heard from you. You guys have heard our opinions many times.
We've heard our opinions. We don't want to hear us. We want to hear you.
Yeah, we know our opinions.
Yes, exactly. All right, give it to us.
Welcome back.
Yeah. So I really like the whole heart, mind, soul thing. I find it really interesting because I think that they're not necessarily positive representations of the heart, soul, and mind. So like Xander is a lot of the time in conflict with Buffy's heart. Like he has a pattern of not particularly liking her boyfriends, and the one he does kind of like is probably the one that she doesn't really love. And I find that very interesting because it's sort of representing her heart in conflict with itself. Like she is such a self-punishing person. And I think especially after what happens with Angel in season 2, she really punishes herself for her desires, and her attractions to certain people. And I think that's why she ends up going with Riley, who's like a safe, sensible option. She feels like that's what her heart should want. And yet it's not really what she wants. And I feel like it's similar with Willow and Giles as well. You see it in season 6 especially. Giles, as the mind, he leaves because he thinks he knows what's best for her. He makes this executive decision and he's proven to be wrong. Like, leaving her on her own is not the right call there. She goes full off the deep end after he leaves. And Willow, again, is her spirit. And yet she's the one at fault in season 6 for essentially breaking Buffy's spirit. She literally pulls her out of heaven. That's like the ultimate spiritual betrayal. So I think all three of them, like, it's not as simple as like, okay, they represent like the good sides of Buffy's in like internal self. Like, you see bits of that in something like Primeval, but then there's also times where they represent the worst aspect of that part of Buffy and show how she's not quite at ease with herself throughout the series. Like, she punches herself a lot. Yeah,
I think that's so cool. I've never even thought about that metaphor in a negative light. I've always thought about it in a positive light. And I think that's why for so long it was hard for me to grasp Xander being the heart, because I was like, what the heck? Like, he's so selfish. But I think the heart can be really selfish.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that that's such a beautiful way of putting it, that's who they are in the group. And when they're all being great and being, healthy aspects of them, the group
when they're
works
unified.
in a cohesive, good. Yes, it works in a good way. But so often, especially in season 6, we see that they don't work well together when they're all not working to their strengths and being healthy versions of them. That's amazing. Thank you. I never even thought about that.
That's super insightful. Yeah.
Oh, I have a defense of Xander and Selfless.
Okay, do it.
To make this a bit more unpopular.
How about it? Go ahead.
So, right. My argument is that what is happening in Selfless is not comparable to what's happening in Becoming, because Anya is not an existential threat to the world like Angelus is, and she also has been evil for a much shorter period of time and has shown much more ambiguity in her evil. So Angelus turns and he's slaughtering people, he's killing Buffy's friends, her classmates. Anya becomes a vengeance demon, and she is not doing, we see this in season 7. She is called out by Helfrich for being like a soft serve. Like, she's not really punishing people. She's not really doing much. She ends up being kind of strong-armed into killing people in Selfless. So I think what is happening in Selfless is more comparable to what's happening in Innocence. And at that point, Buffy doesn't kill Angelus. Like, I have full sympathy for not killing him. I totally understand it, and I do not blame her one tiny bit for that, but she doesn't make that decision. And so that, I think she can't say, I made this decision to kill Angelus, because she didn't at that point. And the other factor is that I think Buffy is proved wrong in Selfless, because she goes to kill Anya, which, fair enough, would stop Anya killing more people. Xander has the opposite opinion. It's like, okay, I'll go court her, which could lead to more people dying from Anya. Willow has the actual right solution. She calls D'Hoffre in, she brings him in, and Anya then makes the decision to sacrifice herself. She believes she's sacrificing herself to save the people she's killed. And that is a decision that Angelus would never, ever make. So there's that option that Buffy doesn't consider in Selfless that just isn't there in the situation with Angelus. So I don't think the situations are completely comparable.
I think the argument, though, is the fact that Anya, had a soul and that she chose to do this. I think that's what the argument is supposed to be about. I think because it's like she chose to be a vengeance demon way back 1,000 years ago, did all of that while having a soul, then was, like you said, she was trapped as a human based off not her own choice, but then it was her choice to be a vengeance demon again, and it was her choice to slaughter the boys. Like, yeah, she felt bad because she was a human for a while and she decided to take it back, but I think that's where the argument is coming from.
Yeah, I totally get that. I don't think there's anything, I would say that Buffy is categorically wrong for making that decision to kill Anya, but the objectively better solution is the one that Willow comes up with. And that's a solution that if Buffy had killed Anya when she stabs her through the chest, she would have cut off that potential solution. It's, you know, it's weird. In both situations, Willow is kind of the one with who actually fixes the situation. You know, she resouls Angel, then she gives Anya the chance to take her wish back and sacrifice herself. So
you,
yeah.
I just want to make sure that I'm understanding correctly. So you're saying that Buffy you think Buffy should have given Anya more of a chance? Like, she should have given her a choice?
Yeah, because Willow gives her the choice and Anya makes the right choice.
Okay.
And I think, whereas, you know, that option wasn't there with Angelus, which changes the dynamic.
Sure.
She couldn't have gone, hey, Angelus, do you want to stop killing people? Because he just would not have done that.
But could you say that she didn't give Angel a choice? Like, she killed Angel and Angel was innocent, versus Anya over there, who made the choice to be a vengeance demon not once but twice, and also, as Tabs mentioned, with a soul. So I think, like, they're not perfectly comparable. And then someone mentioned here too, like, Anya is also thousands of years old and she slaughtered millions of people. Like, she started the whole revolution, like they showed, I think it was the French Revolution or something.
Russian.
Is it the Russian? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So she started the revolution. So it can be argued that, like, Anya is actually changing historical worldwide events. It's possible that she's causing thousands, maybe millions of people to die. Yeah, she's not sucking the whole world into hell, but I think she's still very much a threat. And the fact that she's choosing all of this with a soul is, I think, even more of a sus thing, you know?
And I think that the issue ultimately that I think a lot of people have, because I love hearing a different perspective. I'm king of devil's advocate. I think why a lot of people have an issue is the fact of the parallels between making the ultimate decision between your lover, a person you love, or the innocent. And ultimately, regardless of, you know, whatever the situation was, Buffy made the choice to kill Angel, her lover, over the innocent because she realized that he was a hazard and that it was either him or the world. And I think that the issue that people have is the hypocrisy in Xander. When he was forced to make that decision, he did not have the same grace that Buffy had, and ultimately resulted in anger against her.
I guess, where I'll ultimately come down is we don't see the possibility of Xander being, in some becoming like situation with a portal behind Anya and he's got a sword and he can make that decision.
Could you imagine?
Maybe he would make that decision. You don't know what he'll do. But
right.
That's why I think it's more similar to Innocence, where Angelus has turned. He is a threat, just like Anya is in season 7. Buffy can kill him, has the option to kill him then, and she doesn't. Again, no blame on her, but
right.
I think that's why I have sympathy for Xander in that scene, because I think he's making the same decision in that moment that Buffy is making in Innocence.
Yeah.
And I sympathize that. I sympathize with both of them.
Absolutely. And I think that's the beauty of it is, like, we're watching Xander in a really hard position. I think arguably Xander isn't really put in a lot of sacrificial like positions in the show, at least in the early part of the show. And so it's kind of interesting to put him in that position where it's like, okay, Xander, now you kind of have to make the same decision that Buffy's been having, or you have the same choices that Buffy's been having. What are you going to choose? And so I think it's a very interesting scene. I think it would have been nice if they went deeper, but it's at least good that they touched on it. So thank you, Emily. That's super insightful. Like, come back anytime. Yeah, seriously.
Thanks.
Leah, you wanted to pop on. Go ahead and call in whenever you want. This is super insightful, guys. I'm learning a lot. I also think it's interesting too, like we're watching at the end of Becoming Part 2. I feel like all of the characters, Giles, Willow, Xander, and Buffy, you see all of their roles as the hand, the mind, the heart, all that actively playing out. You literally have Willow, the spirit, go, I want to do it again. That's the spirit of the Buffy gang, is saying, hey, I'm getting back up after being hurt. And she literally does a spell, you know? She says, spirits of the interanum, I call on thee. And then you have Giles over there who's being tortured psychologically with his brain and with his mind. And you see him hold out for so long, even with Jenny. And then you have Xander over there who is wrestling with his own heart with this decision. And then Buffy, who ultimately has to use her hand to kill Angel. I think it's just very interesting how even all the way back in Becoming Part 2, you're seeing this play out and stuff. So. All right, moving on. Let us talk about Willow. All right, so the biggest thing, obviously, is Willow doing her spell. And in Becoming Part 1, it's interesting in the library when Giles says, Willow, channeling such potent magics through yourself could open a door that you may not be able to close. And we talked about how Giles's past experiences with the occult gives him a special insight into this. But we also talked about, too, how there seems to be a difference between channeling magic through yourself versus channeling it through an object. And I wanted to specifically contrast the scene of her doing her first spell here versus Orpheus in Angel Season 4, where Willow does the exact same spell. And it's interesting. I want to know your guys' thoughts because I've been like wrestling through it. So this is obviously a very like powerful spell, and it requires a lot out of Willow. And I think that there might be, and maybe you guys have a different perspective, I feel like there are some inconsistencies with Willow on Angel versus Willow on Buffy in Season 7 with her ability to do this massive spell here. And yet in Buffy Season 7, she's still kind of like magic shy. She doesn't quite want to delve completely into magic. I feel like she was very affected by what happened with this spell, and it kind of set her down that path. Do you guys think that she should have been equally as affected after her spell in Orpheus? Or do you think she was? Or do you think that like at that point she was able to control it better? I don't know. I'm curious about your thoughts.
I think at this point, this was the first big magic spell, magic spell that Willow had done at this point. And so I think that for her and for Giles, I think it was very much like he was worried because he saw what a slippery slope magic was for him. And so I think that he was on the cautionary side of like, whoa, be careful because this opens something in you. And we've talked about the whole magic is an addiction storyline before, which I think is brilliant. I think it's more so of Willow was learning how to use magic in a healthy way. And so I think at this point, when she was going back into it, she had done this spell before, so she knew what she was going in for. And B, I think she was learning how to deal with magic in a healthy way. So I think that she went into it with a much different perspective than she did the first time. And she had gone through so much that I feel like her reaction was going to be different anyways.
It's just interesting because I went back and watched Orpheus. When Willow does the spell, her eyes go completely black at one point when she's doing it. And so I think that that's interesting in the sense that Willow's obviously still wrestling with and fighting with all that darkness that went inside of her. I don't know. All I think about is Giles, you rank arrogant amateur, when he's talking to her very gently in this moment saying, hey, like you're going to be opening doors that you have no idea about, and then seeing that like followed through all the way down. And I wonder if it wasn't specifically just magic itself, like her doing magic, that caused the spiral or the start of the spiral downwards. I think it was this spell in particular because one, it was so intense, but two, because it specifically channeled the magic through herself. And there's a difference between that and then channeling magic through objects. And we talked about how in Bewitched, Bother, and Bewildered, like we've seen Giles do magic before, but he's always channeling it through an object versus through himself. And so I think that the show, it's kind of hazy. I think they could have done a little bit better of a job of like clarifying that, but I think that they are trying to make a distinction between channeling objects through yourself versus through an object.
But also in like a made up world, I feel like magic is like the best example I guess they could use. And I think that like kind of like what we said this in a recording yesterday, so you guys haven't heard it yet. But the difference between like reality and then the metaphor they're using. So like the whole Angel or Angela's storyline is supposed to represent like when a guy like is like one way towards you just to sleep with you and then turns into a completely different person. But that's not the reality of the Angel and Buffy relationship. Whereas I think with magic, I think it's supposed to be a metaphor for people with addiction, but it's like if people like magic or whatever, that's not necessarily the reality of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, we talk about all the time. There's the metaphor of the episode and then what's actually happening. And sometimes they're not always very well gelled together. There's often like a separation between the two of them. I also think this is really cool too. So in Orpheus, when, Faith is with an Angel / Angelus inside of his brain, Faith tells an Angel in the alleyway, she tells him that she hates his hair, which I think is hilarious because it's a callback to Becoming Part 1. But also, Faith will try to give herself up for Angel, and she says, I rolled the bones, me for you. And I think that's really interesting because in Becoming Part 2, Willow literally has to roll bones in order to do the spell. And so it's fascinating that not only is Willow doing that spell in Orpheus at the exact same time that Faith says, I rolled the bones. So it's this idea, like this picture of like, of giving up of yourself. Like Faith is even in some ways like the physical representation of what Willow was trying to do. Like as Willow's wrestling for Angel's soul, Faith's also wrestling for Angel's soul. And I thought that was kind of cool. All right. Hello, Leah.
Hello. Yeah, I just wanted to hop on just about Willow. I feel like having Willow back in Orpheus and doing that spell, it was kind of like a callback. Like I think it's like it was kind of painted in like a different way because I don't know about you guys, but seeing Willow and Orpheus after everything we'd seen her do before, it felt like the old Willow again. It was like literally we haven't seen this Willow in like seasons, and I think that particular spell, like she says, it's the first spell I ever learned, and I think it's like a callback. Like this is Willow. Like I don't know. I just feel like taking into account what happened between the first time she did the spell and going back in Orpheus, obviously she had gone through like a big change with magic. So she's obviously more comfortable with the magic. So I think it was a like really beautiful thing actually, because the first time you could see Willow was not in control when she was doing this spell. She's very new. She doesn't know how to control her magic. The spell took her over, whereas you see her in Orpheus and she's in total control of the spell at that point. But at the same time, you're not seeing Dark Willow, you're seeing Old Willow again, which I thought was really nice because toward the second half of Buffy season 7, we start to see that Willow again, where she's kind of starting to like slowly go into magic, and she's very hesitant, just like Willow in season 2 was. So that's kind of how I see that. Like that's why like she's comfortable with it now because of what she's gone through, but she's been able to like overcome the dark phase, and now she's like Old Willow again. And I don't know if they just did that for Orpheus, but I just thought it was really cool how we got to see like Old Willow again, but this time she's more confident with that spell.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Orpheus in a lot of ways it is supposed to be more fan service. And I mean, I'm totally here for it and I'm not judging it at all for that because I think that it was much needed in especially that season, but also where we were at in season 7 with Buffy. And yeah, I like to see it as Old Willow too. I think that I liked what you were talking about, how, she was able to do everything herself because, I mean, let's think about the mechanics of this spell in Becoming Part 2. Like you have to have Oz chanting the Latin. You have to have Cordelia doing the incense. You have like 3 different people to help Willow do this spell. And in Orpheus, she's literally fighting with evil Cordelia while doing all the roles of that Oz and Cordelia did as well, and becoming part 2. And so I think it speaks to her growth as a character and also as a witch too, which is just really cool. All right. So while we're waiting for Bex, we'll move on. Oh, there's Bex.
It's me.
And
Welcome
she's back.
Hi, guys. I have
Hi,
very little
Bex.
to add to this. I just wanted to see my face
It's
again.
okay. We're going to do Spike next. So you're perfect.
Oh, good. I can't wait. Guys, Leah said everything, basically. But I just wanted to add, like, do we really believe that season 7 Willow, with all of that power, has the ability to do that spell again? And she can't freaking tweak it so that his soul is bound. I know we need the plot device, like the whole point
No,
is that
I've thought
Angel's
about
soul
this too. Oh my
has a loophole.
gosh.
But are you telling me that after everything Willow has done, she can't make that minor adjustment? I don't buy it. That's all.
It's because we have to have our main character
No, okay.
suffer, you know, and then we can't ever have the ship we want. That's, you know,
Sarah
it's more
is
interesting when they're not
all the
together.
time, because anytime I don't like the ending of a show, I just erase it and pretend my own ending is what happened. And so I tell them all the time that at the ending of Buffy, I like the ending of Buffy and I like the ending of Angel. Well, the ending of Angel
Do
is
you
really
though?
good.
Do you though?
No, okay.
I feel like you don't.
The ending of Angel is really good. It's just not happy, which is what I wanted, was a happy ending. However, I have always told him, I'm like, in the future, even if Angel didn't somehow get the Shanshu prophecy, which I will die on the hill that he eventually got it, I swear on my life that Willow could have found some spell to give him back his soul and make him human or something. Like, I know she could. She can raise
absolutely
someone
could
from
have.
the dead. Like, if she can raise someone from the dead, literally, I'm sorry, she can make him human. Like, there's no question.
What are the moral implications of we now are capable of giving vampires souls? So should Buffy be out there killing them when we can go and soul them? Like, how does that work? I mean, it gets just very
I didn't even
tricky,
think about that.
right? Should Buffy be out there
Yeah.
killing them when we have an opportunity and maybe a responsibility to reinsult? I don't know.
Or should we be rounding up every single Mora demon, collecting their blood and rubbing them into the wounds of vampires so that everyone can become human again?
Yep.
But again, you know, they were really rare, but then one of them pops into like Angel's headquarters. A lot of the plot devices are like,
I
come on,
know.
guys, think about
I
this
know.
for a little bit. Because now we know there's a cure, but then it's like, then they're like, oh, they're really rare.
But here's one.
Like, come on, guys, give us something. Give us something we want.
There's some shady stuff going on there. Emily says the funniest fan theory is that Willow did remove the loophole, but never told Angel.
Oh, that's my favorite fan fiction premise for all, like all Angel fanfic is like,
that's so
Willow
funny.
tethered his soul. Now you can be together. Like in my head.
But she'll never tell them because she's like, ha ha ha, let's see how long it takes for them to figure it out. That's just
That
so
would be
funny.
awful. Could you imagine Willow's like, haha, pranked you. You didn't need to go
Willow
fight
would-
on this hell
Willow
mountain.
would never do that.
Or one day Buffy's like, you know what? I think I'm cookies now. And she's like, all right, now that you're cookies, here's your Angel. You can have him. I was lying. He's actually good now.
So funny.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Do you want me to hang up before you start talking about my favorite character of all time, or shall I just bring back?
It is up to you. Are you gonna have stuff to say?
I don't know if anyone wants to see the faces that I make while you're talking, to be honest.
We do. We definitely do. Yes. Okay.
We do.
Because trust me, we have many different opinions when it comes to Spike. So
yeah, there's Leah over there. Buffyverse Archive says Angel didn't love Nina in all caps, and we all agree. Nina, I absolutely hate her.
Yeah.
I mean, both Angel and Nina would agree.
I don't think anyone has ever said Angel loved Nina.
Poor Nina. I
feel bad for her. But then I also kind of just don't feel bad for her.
Yeah.
You know, because the girlfriend knew what she was getting into. He obviously told her about Buffy. So, you know.
Poor boring Nina. Yeah.
Exactly. All right.
She kind of looks like Darla, too.
Oh, Angel has a type.
She is blonde.
Angel has a type.
Oh, he he has one very
Except for
specific
Cordelia.
type. He does not stray from it. Except, yeah, well, one would argue that
Well,
she wasn't
Cordelia
really
did
his
go
type.
blonde.
Technically, she was blonde when he was into her.
That's
Oh, well,
true.
there-
That's true.
Blames it.
He's like, I
Oh,
only date
no.
exclusively blondes.
Oh my gosh. All right, let's talk about Spike because we don't have much time left. All right, so the truth is I like this world. You've got dog racing, Manchester United, and you've got people. All right, so there is a little bit of a inconsistency or a supposed inconsistency. And we kind of talked about it in season 2, but in Surprise and Innocence, Spike doesn't seem to care at all if the world ends with the judge. Yet he tells Buffy that he doesn't want the world to end here. And then again, we see him with Drusilla and he tells he sees Angel or Angelus about to kill Buffy and says, God, he's going to kill her. Then he shrugs and walks away. So the implication here is that Spike doesn't seem to actually care about the world. And I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are. Does Spike actually care about the world? Is it a mix? What is it?
Okay, well, most people know my opinions. I think that the way that I interpret that episode and everything, I do think that Spike loves the world. I think that it is something that is just in his character, that he loves to be the one to bring the chaos. And I think that if you bring a hell dimension onto the earth, you're not really the one bringing chaos anymore. You're just living in chaos. And I think that Spike likes to be in control in that way. And I understand that. But I also think that Spike has always been motivated by passion and love. And I think that as much as he loves the world, I think he loves Drusilla more. And so those were two motivations for why he was helping Buffy. But I think in that moment when he knocked Drusilla out, in his mind, it came down to, I either leave Drusilla here and help fight Angel and ultimately risk Drusilla either leaving when she wakes up or fighting me again, and I lose out on Drusilla, or I pick up Drusilla, we leave, and I risk the world being lost. And I think he ultimately chooses Drusilla because he's motivated by love.
Okay, so then that leads into my second question is Spike motivated by love and passion, or is he motivated by selfishness and obsession? And so Tabby and I, obviously you can see where we fall. Tabby and I think that, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Tabs. We think that he's motivated by selfishness and obsession. And Leah thinks he's motivated by love and passion. And one of the things that we see or Tabby and I see as an example of that is, him choking out Drusilla and forcing her to come with him when she doesn't want to because he believes that's what's best for her. That doesn't seem like love to me, even though he's shown that he's cared for Drusilla in the entirety of season 2. And I think that's consistent with his character throughout the series. Go ahead, Bex.
I think that what Spike believes he is feeling as love and passion is actually obsession and entitlement, and he is incapable of knowing the difference because
Ooh.
even as William the poet, before he was turned, we obviously don't learn this until later, I know, but he had an entitled attitude towards women where he really believed that he was entitled to their affections, and when they rejected him, he became aggressive and very woe is me, and the world owes me something, and that woman should love me. And I love Spike and Drew together as villains, but actually, even when he whacks her over the head and drags her into the car, did anyone ask her if she wanted to? He's still making decisions for the women in his life. I don't think he can tell the difference between actual love and obsession.
I agree. Yeah.
I mean, I agree so much with what you're saying, I think, until he gets his soul back. And I think that I would make the argument that in general, that vampires in general do not know how to do anything that is not selfish. And I think we see that even in season 5 when Spike loves Buffy, but because his heart is so corrupt, because he is ultimately a demon, even with the chip, he is doing things to try and get Buffy to love him, but it is ultimately out of a selfish gain because he just wants Buffy to love him. He doesn't want what's best for her. He just wants her to love him. And I think the only time that changes is in season 7. I think that there is some issues with how much time they gave dedicated to Buffy and Spike instead of dedicated to Buffy and her friends. But ultimately, I think that Spike as a character, when he does not have a soul, or when he doesn't have a soul, he is motivated by love. His love is just ultimately selfish.
There is that scene with Spike and Drew and Buffy went in season 5. I can't remember the episode name, where
Crush.
it's that iconic scene where Buffy's like, you can't love you because you don't have a soul. And Darla's like, actually, we can in our own way. And that also ties in with David Fury. He has so many great little quotes about how it's impossible for a demon or something without a soul to love as we understand love. But obviously, like, Spike and Drusilla, especially from Spike's point of view, were dedicated to each other for however many hundreds of years. And also Angelus and Darla, like, there must be some form of like loyalty and passion and some kind of connection. But I don't think it's, as you were saying, Leah, I think it's ultimately self-serving.
And that's like the whole premise, or I would say not premise, but like underlying metaphor of season 2 is the difference between passion or obsession and love. And Joss talks about that. You see that in Jealous, like it flips overnight from love to obsession, a twisted obsession. And so and Joss has said, like, with vampires, they aren't capable of loving. And so to them, it just turns into this selfish obsession. And I think we see that. And Emily said that Drusilla was like, we can, but not wisely, in reference to loving each other. And it's very true. I think it just gets very muddled with Spike because we even see that in this season. I think it still can be explained in a way that makes sense, but they were only planning on having Spike there for 5 episodes and then had to change it. And so the episode or the season even kind of changed a little bit in thematically. And then you see that in the rest of the show too, where it's kind of like, okay, we see that a vampire can't love, but then we also watch Spike and we're like, but it feels like he can at times. So it just makes it all just very muddled and messy.
I always I think so much of that inconsistency was affected by James Master's decision to play Spike with the soul from the beginning. There's a quote from him in that book that I'm always talking about, Slayers and Vampires. But he made the choice within himself as an actor to play Spike with a soul. And then he talks about how when he found out that actually in season 7 Spike was going to get his soul, James the actor was like, okay, well, I've kind of been doing that the whole time, so what am I going to bring to this to change it up? And I think a lot of the inconsistency in Spike's character and how he differs from other vampires within the lore of the show is down to that decision. And also, like, obviously the writers not being like, hey guy, stop playing him so humanely, it's like messing with the concept. But guys, it annoys me a bit.
Yeah same.
Also, I find it weird that Angelus was so determined to destroy the world because he loves the world. Like, even as Angelus, he's like, he's very into books. He went to the ballet that one time and cried, allegedly. He tells us in Angel the series. I've always been confused by that.
Yeah. And I think our theory that, I don't know if you've heard on the podcast, our theory is that because of what happened in I Only Have Eyes for You, keep wanting to say I will remember you every single time. And then I'm like, I can't say I will remember you because that is a huge spoiler. But in I Only Have Eyes for You, I think the idea that Angelus was so traumatized by what happened, and the idea that, like, he was like, I have to go to hell to get away from Buffy. I have to go to hell to get away from what actual love is. And I think it comes down to the idea that vampires are actually repulsed by true love, possibly like true, deep, selfless love, because that's antithetical for everything that they believe and stand for. And if you're pure evil, then you're going to have issues with that. And so my idea is that he's
Great
like,
point.
I've
Sorry,
got
guys, I haven't listened to all your episodes.
No, it's totally fine. It's fine. We had the whole, because what happens is I Only Have Eyes for You happens. And at the very end of the episode, he's like literally washing himself. And so it's this idea of like, he washes himself of Buffy in a lot of ways, because he not only felt Buffy's and Angel's love, but he felt James's love. And I don't remember the teacher's name. And so I think there's this sense of like, he realized, oh my gosh, it's not just Buffy and Angel that can love this deeply. It's also, there's other people in the world. And so I got to go to literal hell to get away from Buffy.
Let's kill it.
You know? And so from there's a very obvious shift, except for Go Fish, but I cite that as like, Go Fish is just an anomaly. They didn't mean to put it there. But after that, you see Angelus working towards a Cathla. And I think it's because, I mean, he literally tells Buffy when they're fighting and becoming part one, he's like, this isn't about you. This was never about you when they're fighting. And I don't have time for you. Like his whole attitude towards her changes completely. And I think that's because he's just like, I got to get away from you, you know? So that's my theory. It may not be true, but yeah, it is what it is.
I like it.
Thank you. I like it too. So, all right. Does anybody else have anything to say about Spike?
I'm going to hang up in case anyone wants to come in.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks, Bex.
Bye, Bex.
I think that ultimately, I think that Spike is just such a complex and interesting character. And I think one of the things I love about him is how just like different people feel about him. Just because he's such a bold presence on the screen that it's like you either love him or you hate him, you know? I don't know. He's so cool. And I
think he questions a lot of the lore, though. I think that's why it differs with different people, is that he's confusing to me. Because sometimes I'm like, some episodes I'm like, this makes no sense to the show. And then an episode later, he reverts back. And so I think that he's just he's not very consistently written. And I think it's very frustrating because it's like we have all these rules and then he seems to change them, but then it reverts back to its original rules an episode later. And so I think it's very frustrating because it's like, I don't hate Spike's character. I think he's fun. I think, but I'm not going to be blinded to a lot of his toxicity. I don't know if that's how you say it. And I think my biggest beef with him is season 5 and 6. Yes, season 5 included. And I think that season 7 was taken in a direction that I'm very frustrated about, kind of like shoehorning this relationship to kind of mend what happened in season 6. When it could have just been beautiful that Buffy was kind of helping him into his redemption without feeling the need to, you know, be romantic with him and to have a relationship. And so, I don't know. I feel like we're jumping the gun a lot. I don't really want to sit here and talk about Spike for like the entirety of it, but that's all I have to say. I mean, about Spike at this point.
Yeah, we will have more to say about Spike just because there's going to be 3 whole seasons to talk about him. But I just thought that was something to bring in just because, you know, he was in this season and there's a lot that happens. But okay, so we have, we're going to talk about Buffy and then we're going to be all done. So I know this is long. Thanks for hanging in here, guys. I'm having a blast. All right. So Buffy, specifically Normal again in season 6. So we find out that Buffy was taken to a mental institute by her parents after she told them about slaying vampires. The scene with Joyce talking to her just really, really makes me think about that. The whole, you know, I'm not crazy. She's like, this is crazy, Buffy. Or she says, this is insane, Buffy. You need help. And then Buffy says, I'm not crazy. And they have this moment where they stare at each other. It would make a lot of sense canonically if Joyce did know, because Joyce is just repressing everything. The whole, like, you've been taking blood out of my clothes. I mean, and then I think about Bad Eggs where they're sitting at the mall together and Joyce says, honestly, don't you ever think about anything other than boys and clothes? And Buffy goes, saving the world from vampires. And Joyce goes, oh, I don't understand what goes on in your head. And then we have Ted where he talks about reading her diary and then talks about how he's going to tell her mom and then she'll be locked up in a mental institute. I think those are all very valid and real fears. especially given that we know that Buffy was in a mental institute. And I'm curious about your guys' thoughts, because a lot of fans are very divided on that episode. A lot of people feel like it doesn't fit well canonically, that we've never had any sort of inkling that Buffy was in a mental institute. And then other people absolutely love it. So I'm curious what you guys think. Go up for it, Leah.
Oh, sorry. I know I had to reposition y'all. Sorry, I have back issues. But I personally think it's so interesting. I love when shows or movies or whatever do the whole like kind of what if type of scenario. I love that episode. I think it's beautiful. I think it is creepy and just twisted. I think it's sadly realistic. I think, a lot of parents, if they heard that their kid was kind of going off saying that they killed vampires and all that stuff every night, I think they would seek professional help. And it's sad and it sucks, but I think that, not seeking professional help, but I think that the fact that they didn't believe Buffy is sad. I just think it's so twisted, and I love that about it.
Go ahead, Leah. Give it to us.
Yeah, we're muted. Go for it.
Hi. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this a lot, but I love this episode so much. I think it's probably my favorite episode of season 6. And to be fair, I don't really like, I think I like one other episode of season 6. I think it's great. I don't really view it as, them trying to make us question whether this universe is real or not. I think it's just like I think it's a look inside Buffy's mind in season 6. I think it's supposed to show us just how much she's like torn, how much she like she just came back from the dead. She doesn't even want to be in this world. So I think the demon's poison and her hallucinations and stuff, and especially with like the themes of like mental health being so big in season 6, I think they use that really well to show us how much Buffy is like struggling in that season. I never once thought that it was like, oh, like this is the real world, and really what we've been watching all this time is fake. Yeah, I just thought it's such a great episode. It talks about all the traumas that the writers have put every character throughout the whole series. They like call themselves out, basically saying like, you've made up all of these like grand villains and all of these things, and now look at you where you are. You have these 3 like measly guys as the villains. And I just think it's like a great look into Buffy's mind. And I think that was the point of the episode, is to kind of be like, yeah, like we get it. Like this is how Buffy's feeling. She's not connected to the world. And I think at the end it's really beautiful, because she chooses to remain in her like fantasy world, technically, if she thinks that she's in the mental, you know what I mean? Like she chooses, despite all of like the pain and what she's feeling, she chooses to remain in this world. And that just goes to show just like how brave she is. So that's how I view that episode. That's why I love it so much.
Someone said, the Buffyverse archive said, I wish they did that for Pretty Little Liars. Completely off topic, but trust me, if you wanted me to go off about Pretty Little Liars and all the things they could have done better, we'd be here all day. But I agree.
Yeah. I think that Normal Again is so interesting because Buffy chose technically the harder life. She could have stayed in the mental institute and her parents are there. It's a happy life. It's a happy family. Like she could have gotten better and lived a normal life. The fact that she chooses to be strong and stand up and go back into this hellhole that is her life in Sunnydale speaks a lot to her strength and her role as a slayer. And I think that's just absolutely beautiful. And for me, it fits so well canonically with this moment in season 2 that Joyce knew. I think we talked about too on the podcast how we wish Killed by Death had mentioned it a little more. Like they're like, oh, Buffy has a fear of hospitals. Let's talk about her fear of hospitals because she was in a mental hospital, not because her cousin died that we never mentioned again. So I think there was like a couple of like missed opportunities where they could have brought that up. I mean, granted, they didn't know it was going to happen, but how cool would it have been if they had like mentioned that? Or like in season 5, like Buffy has a fear of hospitals, supposedly, but we never talk about this. Well, Joyce is all in the hospital for the entirety of the season. So like, I don't know. It just would have been kind of cool if we'd had just like little hints here and there. But overall, I think that I think Normal Again is a fantastic episode, and it's my favorite season 6 episode as well. All right.
I'm going to hop off.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Leah.
Okay. We have one more thing and then we are all done, I promise. And this one will be pretty quick. All right. So season 2 and 5 parallels. There are a lot of parallels between this season and the season 5 finale. We have first and foremost the fact that they talk about a key and how the key opens the portal with blood. You have Angel and you have Dawn. You have Buffy having to sacrifice someone she loves to save the world, only this time she makes a different choice between Dawn and between Angel. She chooses to sacrifice herself instead. We also have, this is a minor parallel, but Spike is able to get into the Summers house and tell Crush when Willow and Tara shut him out. Buffy invites him in again in The Gift, and the first time she ever invited him in was in Becoming Part 2. So there's like that parallel as well. Buffy talks about season 5, like not jumping, but she talks about whether or not to kill Dawn as being a clear choice and how she just knew with Angel versus with Dawn, it's not so simple because Dawn is innocent. And I think that's huge. And I think that shows character growth on Buffy's part, recognizing, hey, like the world is a lot harder and is a lot more intense. And what do you do when someone is completely innocent? Although I guess it could be argued that Angel is innocent as well. There's another correlation, which I absolutely love. The sun rises in both of these episodes. As soon as the sun rises, while Buffy says me, like no weapons, no friends, no hope, you have the sunrise on her face. And that's when she recognizes and has perfect clarity of what she's supposed to do. Same thing happens in The Gift. As soon as the sun rises and it hits her face, she knows what she has to do. I think that's just a beautiful image. Also, it doesn't have to do with seasons 2 and 5, but it also kind of correlates a little bit with Chosen. In Chosen, all the potentials and Buffy and Faith use their shared blood to open the door to the Hellmouth, which is not a portal, but it's still a door. But it's very similar to how Angel opened his portal and how Dawn opens the portal with Glory. It's with blood. The idea is the foreshadowing of their shared power and destiny, but it also shows that together they open the door and together they will close it or destroy it. And it's kind of symbolic of like, hey, we're going to go in here and we're going to like possibly die trying to shut this portal. And then lastly, it's interesting that Spike's blood is what opens the Hellmouth in season 7. And it's also Spike's blood that technically closes it. I mean, he combusts and stuff. But I wonder if that is why the amulet was meant for Spike, because it was his blood that opened the portal. And I'd never thought about that before until I saw that. Like Angel, like, it's not for me. I mean, I know they shoehorned the whole champion thing in, but I wonder if the amulet was meant for Spike because it was his blood that opened it. I don't know. Food for thought. What do you guys think?
Nah, I kind of like the fact that he's like, I could do it, but I'm going to give it to Spike instead. Or Buffy's like, I could give it to Angel, but I'm going to give it to Spike instead.
She's like, someone has to die. Eeny, meeny, miny.
Yeah, she's like, she's like picking petals off a rose. She's like, which one do I love more?
But I love how she's
which
like,
warrior?
She's like, oh no, Buffy, sorry. She's like, Angel, I need you like as like a second front. But I'm like, Spike could do the second front easily. But she's like, no, I'm gonna give this to Spike. Oh, just cracked
She's
me
like,
up.
oh shoot, whoever wear this could die. Spike, you would look so sexy in this.
Starts flirting with him. He's like, okay, I'm gonna wear it.
On him. She's like,
oh, Emily has something to say. Yes.
Yeah, I just had thoughts on the whole like parallels between the finales, because I think that this is like the first one of like a trilogy with Becoming, Graduation Day, and The Gift, because those are all episodes in which Buffy has to kill someone that she cares about. You obviously got Angel in this episode, you've got Faith in Graduation Day, and then you've got Dawn in The Gift. And I think it's so interesting because she is faced with slightly different like situations in each time. Like, first you got Angel, who is sort of as you said, like kind of like not quite innocent. Like he has done some bad things, but also is kind of not completely guilty because you got the Angel Angelus dichotomy, and she makes the decision to kill him. Faith, who is pretty much completely responsible for what she's done up to that point, but the situation is much different. It's not, it's not Angel against the world. It's Faith against Angel, and she is faced with like a much more difficult decision. Like it's not as much as Buffy loves Angel, and it's kind of an obvious moral choice to choose, right, the entire world, all 7 billion people go to hell, or this one person dies. It's kind of like an easy version of the trolley problem, whereas it's like in Graduation Day, it's Faith dies or Angel dies. Faith is a lot more culpable, but it's not as easily justifiable. And then Dawn is like a more extreme example, like, yes, we have the danger of the whole universe is going to get destroyed by this, but also Dawn is a complete innocent. And so I think you get this. It's why in The Gift, Buffy's like, is just fed up of making this choice, how everything gets stripped away, because every time it keeps on coming back to her, and every time it gets harder. And you see with, in each instance, there's the link of both killing someone and kissing them. So obviously, we know in Becoming, she kisses Angel and kills him, as she says herself in, I think it's Faith, Hope and Trick. In Graduation Day, right, when she's about to fight Faith, Faith says, "Give me a kiss," and that's when she hits her. That is a metaphorical kiss that, then leads to killing her. And then in The Gift, when she's about to leap, she kisses Dawn on the cheek and then kills herself. So it's like she's constantly in the same situation, but The Gift is the final point in which she makes a different choice, and that changes her decision. And I think someone in the chat said she kisses Faith on the forehead in the hospital, and that's a literal kiss that I think links those 3 finales really strongly. And I love that.
Dang, Emily, take over our job.
That's so
Why
cool.
don't you?
I know. You're doing better than us. I didn't even think about that.
No, I love that. And I think it can also be linked to, like, we were talking about vampirism, like the whole metaphor of biting is even like a kiss of a sort too. It's like a kiss of death. So you have like Darla kissing or biting Angel in that alleyway. Like you have it throughout the show too. And I think what is it Enemies, the episode where Faith kisses Buffy on the forehead as well too. So like it's this pattern over and over again, but I absolutely love that. That's really insightful. Man, dang girl, where have you been hiding yourself? We've loved it. Thank you so much.
Yes.
All right, guys. So that wraps up everything. I think we covered the entirety of it all. Guys, we've had so much fun.
I think we covered all 7 seasons.
Yeah, I know, right? We have nothing more. Podcast is done. Thanks so much.
My head hurts, guys. I'm not even joking. I'm like sweating.
Yeah, I have to turn off the air conditioning. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this too. If you can, guys, if you are enjoying our podcast, if you guys can leave a review and stuff, that would be awesome on Apple Podcasts. And you all know where to find us. We've all seen you on Instagram. But for those of you who are listening to this on Thursday, you guys can find us on Instagram, Becoming Buffy Podcast. You can email us, becomingbuffypodcast@gmail.com. We will hopefully do this again. And if we do, we'd love for all of you all to join us. This has been so fun. Hopefully you guys have learned some stuff, and I know I've learned some stuff. I'm all about the Buffy knowledge. I'm like, give it to me. I want to be able to see each of these episodes like in a new light, and it's just so entertaining and stuff to watch. But that's all, you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we will see you again soon.